gloves, take trash out. There's nothing that I do. Mr. Watts wanted to do everything for me.
Houston moved differently the day it said goodbye to Michael 5,000 Watts. The city that he helped shape through music, hustle, and vision gathered quietly on February 16, 2026, to honor a man whose sound defined an era. But inside the private funeral service, away from flashing lights and public stages, the most powerful moment had nothing to do with platinum records or cultural milestones. It came when his wife, Tammie Watts, stood before family and friends, tried to speak, and broke down in tears. In that moment, Michael 5,000 Watts was not a legendary DJ. He was not the founder of Swishahouse. He was not a pioneer of chopped and screwed music. He was simply Michael, a husband, a father, and the center of a home that now felt incomplete. Michael Watts passed away on January 30th, 2026. And at the age of 54, after developing torsades de pointe, a rare and dangerous heart rhythm condition that can lead to sudden cardiac arrest. His passing was unexpected and sent shockwaves through Houston and the broader hip-hop world. For nearly 3 decades, he had been one of the most important architects of Southern rap. He didn't just produce music, he helped create a movement. The private funeral service brought together family members, close friends, artists, executives, and community leaders. It was not open to the public, honoring Michael's preference for privacy. According to those who attended, he never wanted a grand public farewell. He believed that some things should remain personal. But Tammie explained that she chose to hold the service so the people who truly loved him could grieve together and celebrate his life in the right way. When she stepped up to speak, her composure was fragile. Her voice trembled. She paused several times, visibly trying to steady herself. She did not talk about industry awards or headline moments. Instead, she spoke about mornings at home, about quiet strength, about a man who handled responsibilities without ever demanding praise. Michael's talent was incredible, she said softly through tears. It changed lives. It changed the culture. But his heart supersedes everything that he ever did. Those words shifted the atmosphere in the room. They reminded everyone that beyond the legendary drops and slowed-down mixes was a man who prioritized his family above everything else. Tammie described him as disciplined, focused, and deeply protective of his loved ones. She spoke about how he carried the pressure of building an empire while still making time to be present at home. Their daughters, Destiny and Kelsey Watts, also delivered emotional tributes. Kelsey shared how her father taught them what love looks like not through speeches, but through action. She described him as steady and dependable, someone who made them feel safe. Destiny spoke about growing up surrounded by music. She remembered falling asleep to beats playing in another room and feeling proud watching her father work. She said those sounds would forever feel different now. Outside the emotional family tributes, the service also highlighted Michael Watts' massive impact on Houston culture. U.S. Representative Christian Menifee attended the funeral and presented the family with an official proclamation declaring February 16, 2026 as Michael 5,000 Watts Day. He also presented a flag flown over the U.S. Capitol in Watts' honor. Menifee made it clear he was there not just as a congressman, but as someone who grew up listening to his music. Michael Watts co-founded Swishahouse Records in 1997 alongside OG Ron C. At that time, Houston's hip-hop scene was still fighting for national recognition. While DJ Screw pioneered the original chopped and screwed sound, Watts refined it using digital tools, giving it a cleaner, sharper, and more commercial edge. He respected the foundation but wasn't afraid to innovate. Swishahouse quickly became more than a label. It became a platform. Artists like Slim Thug, Paul Wall, Mike Jones, and Chamillionaire rose to prominence through the label's mixtapes and strategic moves. By the mid-2000s, Houston had become a dominant force in hip-hop. Tracks like Still Tippin', Sittin' Sideways, and Turn It Up were no longer regional anthems. They were national hits. Watts understood business, as well as he understood beats. He helped transition artists from local mixtape distribution to major partnerships, including deals connected to larger labels that expanded Houston's reach worldwide. Candy-painted cars, diamond grills, and slowed-down hooks became symbols of pride, not stereotypes. He helped package Houston's identity without compromising its authenticity. His longtime manager, Mike Clark, reflected on their 25-year partnership during the service. He described Watts as both creative and calculated. Clark shared stories of major artists reaching out specifically to work with him. Snoop Dogg reportedly adjusted schedules to collaborate with Watts. Even rock band Korn had expressed interest in working with him. Clark's voice cracked as he admitted that losing someone who had been part of his daily life for so long felt unreal. Yet despite all the industry recognition, the most repeated theme during the funeral was mentorship. Watts believed in developing talent. He invested time in young artists when few others would. Many of the musicians in attendance credited him with giving them their first real opportunity, their first studio session, or their first exposure beyond Houston. Tammie made sure that message remained clear. She told the audience that Michael worked tirelessly, but never lost sight of why he worked so hard. It was about providing stability, building generational opportunity, and ensuring his family never had to struggle. She thanked the community for embracing him and supporting his vision. But she kept returning to a simple truth. To her, he was her husband before he was a legend. Later that same day, Houston held a public celebration featuring local DJs spinning chopped and screwed classics in his honor. The city mourned the only way it knew how, through sound. Cars cruised slowly, bass vibrating through streets that had once echoed with his mixes. It was not a traditional farewell. It was cultural respect. The funeral itself, however, remained intimate. Photos of Michael throughout the years were displayed. Early studio sessions, family vacations, candid smiles. And the contrast between public icon and private man was visible in every frame. He was comfortable in both worlds, but those closest to him said he always valued the second one more. Michael, 5,000. Watts leaves behind more than a discography. He leaves behind a blueprint. He proved that regional culture can shape national conversations. He showed that business and creativity can coexist, and he demonstrated that influence does not have to come at the expense of integrity. But inside that funeral service, none of that felt as heavy as the silence that followed Tammie's final words. She thanked him for choosing her, for building a life with her, for loving their daughters the way he did. Her tears were not about legacy. They were about absence. Houston lost a pioneer. The hip-hop world lost a visionary. But a wife lost her partner. Two daughters lost their father, and that reality made the farewell unforgettable. His sound will continue to play. Swishahouse will continue to represent. Artists he mentored will continue to carry his influence into new generations. February 16th will now stand as a day that officially honors his name. Yet the most powerful tribute will always remain that quiet, trembling moment when Tammie Watts reminded everyone that behind the slowed-down beats and cultural milestones was a man whose greatest role was not DJ, not executive, not legend, but husband and father. And in that room, as Houston said goodbye, that was the title that mattered most.